to the most honourable member for Macquarie.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Well, parents with children in early education or before and after school care know more about the challenges of rising costs than many of us. And this is why our cheaper childcare policy is so vital. It's to make it more affordable for families to allow their children the chance to have a quality early learning experience, which we know pays so many dividends in years to come. It's a long time since my children were in school, or even in school or preschool, but I well remember that juggle, and there's nothing worse than having that with the additional complications of a complex system where you're actually penalised if you work more days, and that's the sort of thing that we want to see an end to, and this legislation will do that. The cost of early learning has jumped by a whopping 41% in just the last 8 years, under the watch of those opposite. Now, this legislation will lead to the costs being cut for more than 1 million families. So 96% of families who are currently using early education and care will be better off under these changes, and no family will be worse off. So this is a really significant way to help people combat, at one level, the rising costs and the challenges that their budgets are facing. For the electorate of Macquarie, which I'm so proud to represent, this will affect more than 6,000 families who are already accessing early learning, and there'll be more who take advantage of it once the costs are actually lowered. We've got 112 locations in the Blue Mountains and the Hawkesbury with 101 providers, and they're an amazing group of people who provide excellent supportive care. You know, when you're caring for kids and educating kids, you're also dealing with lots of parents, and sometimes those parents need a bit of care too as they juggle their responsibilities. More than half of the childcare services in my electorate are run as not-for-profits, they're community-run or they're school-based. So that paints a picture of where some of the benefits of this are going to flow through and where parents are going to be able to be well supported. Now, why is this needed? I often get people of my generation asking, why do you even need this? What is the problem that they face? You only have to talk to people with kids in their 20s or their 30s to get a picture of it. And these are families where the discussions weigh up the cost of care with the bonus of working an extra day or two, where the opportunity for extra work might mean not a single extra dollar comes in the door because of the way it changes the subsidy for the care of the children. About 60% of Australian women who have children under the age of 6 are working part-time in paid work rather than full-time. The cost of childcare is a massive roadblock, stopping a lot of Australians from going back to paid work. And that's because often working the 4th or 5th day is gobbled up in childcare costs. And if it's a promotion that you're being offered, the additional pay can see people lose subsidies and end up not even in any way financially better off and potentially worse off. According to the Bureau of Statistics, last year 73,000 people who wanted work didn't look for work because they couldn't make childcare costs work for them. Well, this will change that. If we can make childcare cheaper, it will mean more Australian families and, in particular, a lot of Australian mums can go back to work. I think in this chamber we're talking about 1 million hours of person power being freed up potentially, the equivalent of 37,000 full-time jobs. Now, that's something that businesses in my community would welcome because they are desperately looking for skilled workers at the moment. And what that means is that in the 23-24 financial year, this could make a real difference for them. So this is a government that's looking to the future, making decisions now that we know will take a little bit of time to flow through, but will also take a lot of adjustment. in terms of how the system is run, and we need to give the system time to do it and get up to speed. I recall reading that when those opposite made changes to the childcare system, it took 50 weeks for it to be for the systems to be able to be adapted to it. So these things need time. We'll be working to do ours by the 1st of July next year. But it is a big and important reform. And, you know, out of it, it's not just going to be parents who benefit, not just businesses who will have access to more workers. It's also going to be great for kids, because it means there's going to be more kids better prepared for school. All the research shows how important these formative years are. You know, it's a time when play and music and games can help with development. Early learning is also a place where developmental problems can be identified, and they can be identified and dealt with quickly. I know in my family, one of my kids had a speech issue at about the age of 3 that was picked up by his educators, and thanks to early intervention, it was quickly addressed before he went to school. It wasn't something that he had to be teased about at school. It was something that was able to be looked after with incredible work by speech pathologists. And this is what early education does. It prepares children for school, it prepares them for life. And we know when we invest in these early years, we get really great outcomes. You know, as a parent, I saw the benefits of quality early learning, and fortunately, as the federal member for Macquarie, I get to see it now as well. Places like Euroka Children's Centre at Blaxland, a community-based service with children from 6 weeks to 6 years, which, like so many similar services in the Blue Mountains and Hawkesbury, runs on a tight budget so that's as affordable as possible for families. I am delighted that, as we promised during the election, last night's budget contained my election commitment of $20,000 for improvements to the backyard play space for this childcare centre. When I visited in March, they were thinking of things like slides and a rock wall and scramble nets, creating a space where kids can safely be brave, and this is the power of quality early education. So this is good for children, it's good for parents, and it's good for our economy. And let's just go over a few of the details here. So from July 2023, we will lift the maximum childcare subsidy, the CCS rate, to 90% for families with a combined income of under $80,000 and increase the subsidy rates for families earning less than $530,000. So many families are going to benefit. We'll keep the higher CCS rate for families with multiple children aged 5 and under in care. Not just for your first child, it's for your second and your third and even your fourth. The plan for cheaper childcare will make childcare more affordable for, as I said, around 1 million, in fact 1.26 million families. Here's an example. A family on a combined income of $120,000 with one child in care will save $1,780 in the first year of this plan. So this is a genuine saving to people's budgets. The bill also helps families make more informed choices because it puts in some measures to deter fraud. So that's another extra thing that we've added. And one that I know will resonate with a lot of workers in the sector. In order to help retain and attract workers, the bill also allows providers to offer discounted childcare fees for early childhood education and care workers. And that's a really sensible thing to do when we know that getting the workforce is a really key part of it. Deputy Speaker, I do want to acknowledge that, as we've heard in this chamber, finding a place in a centre can be a real challenge for parents. And only 2 days ago I was on the phone to a mum from Sackville who had been at the end of her tether trying to find a place. She's been trying to work from home with a young child, and she feels huge relief that she's found a place for that child next year. And they'd had orientation and it was all looking really good. So that is a positive outcome, but there are many families where this is a huge struggle. And that's one of the reasons why we need to now support centres to be able to expand, to skill up the workforce. And that is why I am so proud of our announcements around new places at university being quarantined for early education training. 1,469 places. That will mean that's nearly 1,500 people moving through that training process so that we will have them. Not tomorrow, but we will have them. But we've also got some of those fee-free TAFE places, a significant number of those for all our areas of skill shortage, of which childcare workers is definitely one of those. So there are things in place. You know, we're not just standing here saying, oh, it's a problem and no one's done anything about it for the last 10 years and, gee, it's too hard for us. We're recognising that there's been an issue, there's not been the work done. We're prepared to do the work. We know there's going to be some time for those workers to flow through and come online, but we'll be supporting centres so that people in the McDonald Valley and Wisemans will hopefully have an easier time than they've had in trying to revive an early learning centre. I also just want to take a quick moment to give a shout-out to two incredible women in the Blue Mountains, Sarah O'Carrigan and Dr Jenna Condi, who looked at the problem of not being able to find a childcare centre and set up Bub Hub. And Bub Hub Blue Mountains is a co-working creche space, and it's I've been and visited it in Winmalee using existing OOSH facilities, so that they can bring mums together. There's a shared way of caring for the kids. Now, this is a really innovative way of going about it, and I really take my hats off to these women. They knew they wanted to work. They knew that it was hard to do it in a way that worked for them, and they've come up with a design and they're piloting it to see how well it works for other mums. You know, this is women solving women's problems, and this legislation, driven very much by the women on this side of the House, but also by all the men who are dads and want to see a really fair deal for families with young kids. I'm very pleased to be supporting our family assistance legislation bill. Thank you, Speaker.